Exclusive contracted novel by Feilu Novel Network. Zongmang. In order to support my sister, let's go work. Feilu Novel Network reminds you that this novel and its characters are purely fictional. If there are any similarities, they are purely coincidental and should not be imitated. 0001, My Sister Chunri Yeqiong. Seeking Collection. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Duanmu Xia, an ordinary high school student of the 21st century, stumbled into a world where magic and technology coexist. And she has a sister with no blood relationship. Chunri Yeqiong. Yes, it's the Qiong girl who says, if you have a sister, you can't be Qiong, but if you don't have a sister, you can't be Qiong. Of course, as a traveler, one naturally has their own differences, and what appears in Duanmu Xia is the so-called sister development system. I don't know why, just listening to the name makes the system feel unreliable. According to the setting of time-traveling novels, shouldn't the system possessed by the protagonist be simply pleasing and submissive just by listening to the name? With a tiger's body shaking, countless beautiful women throw themselves in arms and embrace each other, and countless younger brothers kneel on the ground and shout, "Hello big brother." What kind of ghost is the sister development system? Do you think this is playing Galgame? The host seems to have some objections to me, so should I play Xining? Okay, let's not mention the name for now, at least let me know what your functions are, right? Duanmu Xia spread her hands. No other, just as the name implies, I am a system that assists the host in nurturing younger sisters. The world the host comes into is a combination of high technology and high magic, in which countless anime prototypes are combined. The only way to survive in this world and build your own huge crystal palace is to make money, and the only way to make money is to work. Working is impossible. It's impossible to work in this lifetime. Duanmu Xia firmly declared. Oh. Even if you starve to death, it's okay. You are indeed unreliable in the system. I have only one child, where did I come from? Little sister. At the time when Duanmu Xia mocked the system, a beautiful young woman full of anime flavor appeared in front of him. With long straight hair in cream color, wearing a white dress, black stockings wrapped around slender legs, Kawaii's little feet walked back and forth. Sensing the incredulous gaze of Duanmu Xia, the girl shyly hugged the black rabbit doll in her arms, blushing and her gaze wandering. She dared not meet Duanmu Xia's gaze. Stupid brother, why? Keep staring at Qiong. Is there anything wrong with Qiong's body? Are you Qiong? Chunri Yeqiong. Why use the full name? It would make Qiong very embarrassed, stupid brother. Duanmu Xia rolled her eyes and let out a silent moan, can you come out of the system? What exactly is this situation? In short, you have traveled to a different world and have a sister named Chunri Yeqiong. You need to work hard to earn money to support yourself and your sister, and you can exchange strong skills and bloodlines from me. So. Work, young man, this is your only way out. I want to apply for a loan. Sorry, this service has not been activated in this system. For more information, please consult my sister's OP. I believe you can find the answer there. Oh, your sister. If we can find the answer, there will be ghosts. In this way, Duanmu Xia arrived in an unknown world, encountered a very unreliable system, but had a sister who could eat and sleep. Well, in various senses, one can eat and sleep. Xiazhiqiu 3 days later. The morning sunlight shone in, causing Duanmu Xia's eyebrows to furrow slightly and her eyes to open slightly. A slight but even breathing sound came from beside him, and he turned his head to look at it with some helplessness. Qiong, with fair skin all over her body, was sleeping beside him. As for why he knew that all her skin was like this, because at this moment Qiong was sleeping wearing only one inner garment, and most of the blankets were not covering her. Qiong, you can't do this. If this continues, you will eventually catch a cold. Duanmu Xia stood up and covered the blanket with a slightly accentuated tone. Getting up and lying in bed is not a good behavior for a child, especially a girl. It seems to make a cat-like sound. Qiong wanted to open his eyes, but after trying for a while, he was unsuccessful. Even though my older brother made me stay up late at night, and now he doesn't let me sleep a little longer, how could my body tolerate it? Bad brother. Hello. Please don't say so ambiguously, okay? It's you who insists on pulling me to tell the story until early in the morning. Saying such a thing casually can be misunderstood. Duanmu Xia's face turned pale and she coughed lightly. Are you really not getting up? If you don't get up, I will punish you. Qiong seemed to react for a moment, then turned over and lay on Chuang, lifting his butt up. Ahem. Does this mean I'll punish you whatever I want? I've had enough of it. If this continues, I really don't know which day I will have a wild temper and do what I shouldn't do. Duanmu Xia's face turned pale, and it took a lot of perseverance to shift her gaze away from her fair and smooth body. Well, it's up to you. I'll go cook first, and after dinner, I'll have to go to work. After all, there won't be any savings left at home soon. If this continues, I won't be able to support you. As he spoke, he put on his shoes and walked out of the bedroom, leaving only Qiong to quietly open his eyes. Brother, Baga. P.S. New books require everyone's support to go further. I hope everyone can give some things to help, such as flowers, collections, monthly tickets, and so on. The daily minimum is 3 shifts, and I will add more shifts if everyone awesome, maybe 5 shifts every day. Thank you, old irons. Qingming outing and happy reading. Charge 100 and get 500 VIP coupons. Immediate recharge, activity period. April 4th to April 6th. 0002, in order to support my younger sister, let's go work. You are listening at novelfull.audio. After 3 days of contact, Duanmu Xia finally gained a rough understanding of this world. What kind of world is this? Well, in simple terms, it means heroes are everywhere, not as tall as dogs, dragons are flying in the sky, and there are no gaps. For example, in last night's news, it was reported that the heroes were competing for the Holy Grail, and a lament was made that Winterwood City is another day of nuclear peace. But the news anchor is a character that Duanmu Xia is exceptionally familiar with. Sagitaka Marumi. Oh my goodness, have I wandered into the absurd world of an anime carnival? Duanmu Xia couldn't help but let out such a moan, and the system just jumped out to praise him, saying, San Yen, you answered correctly. As for making money, as the system says, it is a very important thing. Money can not only support him and Qiong, but also purchase powerful abilities in the system, so to become stronger, one can only work hard to earn money. The only way to earn money is through working, and only the money earned through working will be recognized by the system. Whether it is through begging or stealing, it is not recognized at all. There are various ways to work, and all the commissions are posted on the huge light curtain in the living room. But there are relatively few commissions available for Duanmuxia to choose from. Why? Because he is too weak. For example, things like Altolia entrusts to seize the Great Holy Grail, with a reward of 10,000. Red Eyes entrusts to overthrow the warlord Estes, with a reward of 8,000, have extremely high danger levels. Taking on the commission with Duanmuxia's current strength is completely lifeless. Of course, huge risks also represent huge benefits, and those rewards can easily be thousands of dangerous commissions. Seeing Duanmu Xia's heart itch, after all the culinary skills he exchanged for were only 100 yuan spent. Why exchange this ability? Of course, it's for cooking for oneself. After all, eating and drinking outside costs too much money. In addition to commissions with a high probability of death, there are also daily commissions such as, assisting His Highness Hatsune in writing new tracks, with rewards calculated based on the quality of the tracks. Aeromanga's mannequin, limited to women aged 15.20, with rewards in person, but the rewards cannot be too high. There are only over 300 available funds at home, and if we can't make a decision today, we'll really have to eat dirt. Duanmu Xia pondered, and the voice of Qiong came from behind. Brother, have you decided where to work? Qiong walked slowly, the black stockings on his slender legs reflecting the bright colors, causing Duanmu Xia's Adam's apple to involuntarily move. Sure enough, let's choose some simple commissions. Although the remuneration may be lower, there is no danger involved. Duanmu Xia pondered and wrote his name on one of the commissions, touching Qiong's head. Let's go, after breakfast, I'm going to work. When the time comes, Qiong himself will be at home, but be obedient. Qiong lowered his head and played with the rabbit doll in his hand, then I'll also go out to work with my brother. Qiong, letting my lovely sister go out to work and earn money is not something that a qualified brother should do. Duanmu Xia's expression was a bit serious. Although life is a bit difficult now, I will definitely work hard, and the days in the future will definitely get better and better. Making actions that care for girls in appropriate circumstances can effectively increase favorability. This is the best way to guide girls. Although Duan Muxia, a single Wang, is only in the theoretical stage about this, so, what brother means is to only let Qiong stay at home and be a sister who can eat and sleep. Qiong said coldly. Duanmu Xia was stunned and looked at Qiong incredulously. You, what did you just say? Qiong glanced at him and lifted his chin arrogantly. I didn't say anything, I just repeated what my brother said in his dream last night. Puff. Did I actually say that? It's over, what more strategies are being proposed, what more favorability are being promoted, everything is over. Duanmu Xia was completely disheartened, even the background turned black and white, and BGM like white-haired girl sounded. However, I don't dislike such a brother anymore. Qiong's voice was very soft. Hey. Did you just say something? No, it's brother. You heard me wrong. Impossible. I clearly. Brother, please pay attention to your working hours, it's not much anymore. So, I'm out now. At the entrance, Duanmu Xia checked the bento in her hand and waved goodbye to Qiong. Qiong stood in the room, out of reach of sunlight, lifted the rabbit doll's arm and said, "Be careful on the road," then blushed slightly. No matter how you listen, such words are like what a wife said when saying goodbye to her husband. Is it too obvious for me to do this? Will brother notice? No, with my brother's dull wooden head, how could he possibly find something wrong? Ha! Taking a soft breath, Qiong looked at Duanmu Xia's departing figure with a somewhat disappointed expression. Is it because my charm is not enough? Or rather brother doesn't like me? Just treating me like a younger sister? Regardless of Qiong's wild thoughts, at least when Duanmu Xia turned his back to Qiong, his expression on the face was very strange. To be honest, as a teenager who has been influenced by various types of anime, including anime, in the 21st century, how could he possibly have an indestructible elm head like those male leads in harem anime? Do Duanmu Xia not understand Qiong's thoughts? No, it's precisely because he understands Qiong's thoughts too well that he can't focus his attention on that kind of romantic thing now. That thing, it's like poison that can be addictive. Duanmu Xia is afraid that after tasting the forbidden fruit for the first time, she will become uncontrollable and forget the truly important things. Make money. Duanmu Xia shook her head to shake off her strange thoughts and monotonously read through the commission she had accepted. Let me see, the commission distance this time is not far, you only need to transfer to a bus stop to get there. However, it's the client who makes me a little concerned. My gaze fell on the commission form, only to see it written like this. Due to certain reasons, we are recruiting screenwriters and supervisors. Interested parties are requested to visit Toyazaki Academy and contact Samura Irie or Kato K for compensation to be discussed in person. Qingming outing and happy reading. Charge 100 and get 500 VIP coupons. Immediate recharge, activity period. April 4th to April 6th. 0003, I am as beautiful as a fairy in a painting. Seeking collection 4. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Xiazhiqiu Shiyu. It's all because of you, how can we continue to make our game like this? Pop Samura Ingli, with blonde hair and double ponytails, stood up from the table and became furious at Xiazhiqiu Shiyu, who was resting on her seat in the distance. Zitsuan classmate, even though I'm not feeling well now, I'm still provoking here. Are you the legendary loser? Xiazhiqiu Shiyu lifted her head and could clearly see a strange blush on her face, with fine beads of sweat oozing from her forehead. Ha! A loser. How could I possibly do it? Ah, even the howling sound seems like that of a defeated dog. Is it indeed a defeated dog without error? Sitting between the two, Kato Hui put down her book. In fact, she didn't want to participate in the war between Zamura and Kashizuki, but who let them disturb her reading? This is the book she rented out from the library, and it will be returned after school this afternoon. If she can't finish reading it, she will feel very conflicted. Well, Xiazhiqiu, I think it's better for you to speak less when you have a fever. So is Zitsuan. Can you please show some understanding to your senior sister? Kato Hui's tone is very plain, it should be said that she seems to speak in this tone no matter what, as if she is not angry or lost. Ingli Li snorted coldly at Shiyu of Xiazhiqiu and turned her gaze to Kato. Hui, you should know that our plan won't keep up with the schedule like this. Originally, the script was delayed and we kept using no good ideas as an excuse. Do you want me to use those scripts full of content? For a writer, it can be considered insulting. Xiazhiqiu Shiyu propped up her body and said, even though she had a high fever and her mind was a bit unclear, as the author who wanted to create a true story for readers, she would not agree with the words of Zitsuan Ingli. What's wrong with it? It's not like having such a plot in a work is called a scumbag. I will make the painting stable and then make the girls more cute, in that case. So do you think that as long as the painting is exquisite, it can be called a pass? Indeed, a superficial illustrator. Xiazhiqiu Shiyu finished this sentence, as if he had exhausted all his strength, and leaned back on the table. I'm not feeling well now, I don't have the energy to discuss these with you here. Xiazhiqiu Shiyu. Sakura Ingli roared out, anyway, it should be your fault, right? Well, why don't you guys argue anymore? Didn't the information entrusted be released? Maybe there won't be a screenwriter or supervisor coming up to apply in a long time, right? Kato Hui put the bookmark in the book and closed it. She understood that if she didn't solve the problem in front of her, she wouldn't want to read well. How could it be so simple? Irie Zamura sighed and sat down to extend a finger. First of all, the three of us can't offer much compensation, after all, most of the funds are used for animation production, and the compensation we can pay is not much. So, don't people who can be attracted by these rewards have much ability? Kato nodded, and that's exactly what happened. Secondly, the level of screenwriting or supervision needs to be considered. If the level is not good, not to mention me, Xiazhiqiu Shiyu will definitely be the first person to stand up against it, after all, she will not allow the situation of being a mere playwright to occur. Well, that's right. Kato silently opened her book, and only Irie was speaking, as if can you continue reading. Finally, and most importantly, the reason. Ingli Li trembled all over, feeling the anger emanating from her body. The deadline for manga exhibitions is approaching. If you want to draw a manga book, it may still be possible, but if you want to make a game, time is too tight. Speaking of which, Ingli Li collapsed on the table, feeling weak and said, it's done. We definitely won't be able to catch up with this anime exhibition. Dong dong dong. Just as her words fell, a knocking sound came from the door. Zitsuan, think positively about everything. Maybe the person who comes will be our savior. Kato K stood up and opened the door, where a boy of similar age stood outside. Excuse me, who are you looking for? Kato tilted her head and looked at him in confusion. And this boy is the Duanmu Xia who applied for the job. I'm here to apply for screenwriting or supervision. You're a saint. No, Kato Hui, right. Duanmu Xia's eyes lit up and she almost called out the nickname, Saint Hui. Aha. Are you? Kato K became even more puzzled. She was very confident in her memory, and if this guy had met before, she would definitely have an impression. My name is Duanmuxia, as I said, I am here to apply for the job. Well, Duanmu Jun, come in first, Kato Hui said as she led Duanmu Xia in. Ingli Lisher didn't hide her skeptical gaze and said, are you about the same age as us? Are you also a fan of ACGN? We are a game club with the aim of making gameplay. Because the person in charge of the script had some problems, we thought about recruiting someone. Not everyone can be a good match. Duanmu Xia raised her eyebrows and casually glanced at Xiazhiqiu Shiyu in the back row. Indeed, just by looking at her, it has already reached a terrible level. Well, Zamura is not questioning your abilities, but if you're applying for a screenwriting position, could you please briefly explain your ideas? Kato K said gently beside her. Is it true that there are saints before heaven, and I am as beautiful as a fairy in a painting? A strange emotion welled up in his heart, and Duanmu Xia coughed lightly. So, what kind of stories do you want to hear? I have a lot here, but do you have tea? P.S. Everyone's flowers are very awesome. They have broken 100. So add another chapter later. If you want to see more, please continue to support me. Thank you. Qingming outing and happy reading. Charge 100 and get 500 VIP coupons. Immediate recharge, activity period. April 4th to April 6th. 0004, your name, caused a sensation. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Do you have many stories? Ingli Li suddenly widened her eyes and looked at Duanmu Xia incredulously. Don't come up with that kind of garbage story with unclear logic and ethics, it will only make me feel like I'm wasting time. Oh. Shouldn't this kind of statement be a reflection that can only be expressed after listening to the story I'm telling? Duanmu Xia sneered. Ingli Li's breath took a breath and she realized that her words were a bit heavy. This is also an unavoidable thing, after all, the deadline of Manjan is pressing on her head, and she really doesn't have any extra time to waste on Duanmu Xia. However, being aware of mistakes is one thing, and being able to actively admit mistakes is another. Especially for her blonde and proud ponytail, admitting mistakes in front of strangers is more painful than killing her. Well, Zitsuan's words were a bit heavy, please forgive me. Saint Hui apologized softly and, as requested by Duanmu Xia, took out his water cup, used the lid as a cup, and poured it full in front of Duanmu Xia. Perhaps it will be a bit hot, please wait a little longer before drinking. Wow Sage Hui, you are truly a virtuous wife and mother, truly so virtuous. By comparison Duanmu Xia glanced at Ingli Li, who seemed to sense the meaning in his gaze and couldn't help but turn away and let out a cold snort. So, the story goes like this. The male protagonist Tachibana Takashi lives in Kyoto, while the female protagonist Mayumi Mitsuba lives in the rural town of Itomori, which is far from Kyoto. They have the ability to exchange souls, but in fact. More than 10 minutes later, Duanmu Xia took a deep breath and took a sip from the cup on the table, moistening her throat. Based on his memory, he explained all the main plot of Your Name, especially about chewing wine, seeing non-human objects at dusk, and describing the shackles and ropes given to the male lead 3 years ago, which were even more important. This lecture lasted for just over 10 minutes. Of course, compared to the 2-hour animated movie, Duanmu Xia had already omitted many things in the past. However, even so, the other 3 people in the classroom were still shocked and almost stopped breathing. Why are there 3 people? Isn't Xiazhiqiu Shiyu resting on the table with a swollen mind and a weak body? Should it be said that Xiazhiqiu Shiyu, who has published best-selling novels, is worthy of it? Duanmu Xia only spoke for half a minute before she could hear something unusual. This is definitely a script that can cause a sensation in the world. How could I be absent at this time? This is the only remaining thought in her heart, and it is precisely because of this spirit that endless vitality seems to surge out of her body, overwhelming the fever in one fell swoop. She had no intention of interrupting Duanmu Xia at all. She quietly pulled a chair and sat next to him. After listening to him finish speaking, she finally sighed with satisfaction. 3 years ago, a meteorite impact created a love story that transcends time and space. Various clues were unraveled one by one, making the audience go from being funny at the beginning to being moved. The final phrase, "your name," completely destroyed everyone's tear glands. This kind of script. Xiazhiqiu Shiyu was a little excited, with her right thumb in her mouth and unconsciously biting her fingernail. This is a small gesture that only occurs when she is completely immersed in thought, and every time this happens, it means she's going crazy. I'm sorry, I underestimated you at first. Li Li looked at Duanmu Xia with complicated eyes and suddenly stood up and bowed deeply. Please forgive my previous actions. This is really a world-class script. I'm sorry, I don't have the confidence to draw it. At this point, her expression was a bit desolate, and she smiled self-deprecatingly. I thought it was just an ordinary script at most, but I didn't expect. I'm just a little illustrator. This level of script is not something I can intervene in, and I even feel. Li Li's gaze turned to Xiazhiqiu Shiyu, without speaking, but the latter already knew her meaning. Yeah, I'm just a light novel author who has published 500,000 copies. This kind of script. I probably don't have the ability to write it well either. Upon hearing them say things like, "This drama is really amazing," in silence, Duanmu Xia was originally very proud, although it was a work by Xiazhiqiu, but why did it get worse as she listened to it? Just as Duanmu Xia was stunned, the sage Hui sitting beside finally took a breath and recovered from the shock. Duanmu Jun, I'm really sorry, your idea is too excellent. Our small team should not have the ability to handle it. I'm really sorry. Kato K stood up, bowed deeply to Duanmu Xia, and continued. Please rest assured that we will never reveal today's events, let alone plagiarize your ideas without authorization, so. Duanmu Xia's eyebrows furrowed tightly, and suddenly a certain enlightenment rose. That is to say, I said the script was too good and you didn't have the ability to complete it, so don't recruit me anymore. This won't work. Absolutely not. If I can't find a place to work again, Qiong and I will really have no food to eat. Wait. What are you doing? Duanmu Xia slammed her hands on the table, and a loud noise woke the 3 of them up, all looking at the former in surprise. Since I'm here, I just want to give you this opportunity. Don't say anything disheartening like "I can't finish it" to me. In theory, the most stunning way of writing this script is through animated movies, but we don't have the funds or manpower, so. We can start with comics and games. As long as we can complete these 2 productions before the next anime exhibition, we will definitely cause a sensation. As for your concerns about insufficient abilities, and other reasons, leave them to me. I am not only a planning supervisor, but also a screenwriter. I am also an illustrator, but also a composer. As long as you pay me my salary, everything is not a problem. In fact, my sister and I are facing a crisis of hunger. P.S. A chapter with added updates is presented. Do you still have flowers? Now there are 300 flowers, as long as there are 500 flowers before midnight, I will add another chapter tomorrow. There are only 200 of them. Everyone, give me some strength. Qingming outing and happy reading. Charge 100 and get 500 VIP coupons. Immediate recharge, activity period. April 4th to April 6th. 0005, the female protagonist of the passerby came to my house. 1/3 of the total. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Salary. The three of Xiazhiqiu and Shiyu looked at each other. In theory, a person who can tell such a plot shouldn't have fallen to the point of not being able to afford to eat, right? After all, as long as this script is told to any large fan club, they will definitely spend a lot of money to buy it. Salary. Apart from our daily expenses and game production costs, I probably don't have much remaining copyright fees. Xiazhiqiu Shiyu pondered and turned her gaze to Li and Kato Hui. The Metronome of Love is still in the process of being reprinted and sold, and the copyrighted Xiazhiqiu Shiyu can also receive a considerable amount of money. However, manufacturing a game is a big project, and the amount required during this period is also considerable. She must save her own money so as not to experience a shortage of funds in the later stage. So, let me come out. Li clapped her hands with excitement and said, I'm really not willing to let someone else make such a good plot. At least, I don't want to lose this opportunity because I can't afford to pay my salary. Well, actually I can also contribute a portion, although it's relatively small, that's right. Kato Hui raised her hand. I still have some savings from selling comics at the manga exhibition before, and with the benefits, it should be. Li thought for a moment and pointed out a finger. Can 1,000 be enough? Salary. 1,000. Duanmu Xia frowned tightly. It's impossible. In this world, you can buy enough ingredients to eat for 3 days for just 1 or 2 yuan, but if you want to exchange skills, the minimum starting point is 100 yuan. If you calculate it, 1,000 yuan is not enough. It's a bit low, he said truthfully. I know it's wishful thinking to buy your idea at this price, but it's also difficult for us to come up with more salary before the anime exhibition. Xiazhiqiu Shiyu hugged her hands and rhythmically tapped her shoulder with her right index finger, pondering corresponding strategies. That. Kato Hui's voice rang out. To be honest, if she didn't speak up, everyone present, including Duanmu Xia, almost forgot about her existence. Is it indeed the saint who maintains the lowest sense of existence? Even Duanmu Xia, the traveler, would unconsciously ignore her. Duanmu Jun, I have something to ask you. What is your most urgent need now? Shouldn't it be earning money to support her younger sister? Duanmu Xia's expression was a bit off. I don't want my younger sister to starve to death, how could she say that? So, what do you think of this? Kato pointed to Irie and said, your salary is 1,000. She pointed to Xiazhiqiu Shiyu and herself again and said, Xiazhiqiu and I bring ingredients to your place every day to cook, which means we will be responsible for the meals before the anime exhibition. Finally, and most importantly, I believe that once your script is made into a game, it will definitely receive high praise. At that time, you will account for 50% of the net profit from sales. How about that? 50% is actually a considerable amount. In the situation where the capital is managed by Xiazhiqiu Shiyu and 3 others, Duanmu Xia can only take up 50% of the share with just a few ideas and efforts, which is also a fairly favorable situation. From this, it can be seen that Kato is not as calm as she appears on the surface. To exaggerate a bit, she really wants to plan this script. I want such a wonderful story to be born in my own hands. Is it 50%? Duanmu Xia's eyes flickered with light, and a smile gradually appeared at the corner of her mouth. Deal. So, time is running out, and the deadline for registering for the comic exhibition is getting closer. Let's start planning now. Xiazhiqiu Shiyu was a little excited, unable to see her sickly appearance before. Oh, by the way, can you pay me your salary before that? I need it urgently. Is there an urgent need? What is the use of it? Of course, it's about exchanging skills with the system. So far, he has only redeemed the skill of culinary proficiency, which is obviously useless for future comic and game creations. If you want to achieve the level of, I am not only a planning supervisor, but also a screenwriter. I am also an illustrator, but also a composer that you promised before, Duanmu Xia feels that you need to exchange at least 4 skills. Proficient in screenwriting, proficient in painting, proficient in music, and proficient in programming. After all, gameplay production is not simple, roughly divided into 4 parts. Original artwork, script, BGM, and programming games. To complete the game production before the anime exhibition, he must make achievements in these 4 aspects. Is it urgent? Ingli Li looked at Duanmu Xia and nodded. Alright, I'll go home and get it. The phenomenon of paying wages before work starts is rare in this world, but Ingli Li is not afraid that Duanmu Xia will take the money and leave. If he really does this, Ingli Li and the 3 of them can use his script without any guilt. No matter what, he will be at a loss. Since we have already made the decision, let's go to a different place to talk about what's going on afterwards. Shiyu Kashiwagi said as she began packing her backpack, and the opposite was true for Kato Hui and Ingli Li. Changing places. Duanmu Xia was a bit puzzled. Afterwards, Xiazhiqiu and I will take turns cooking at your house. So we must familiarize ourselves with your location, what things are in your house, what ingredients need to be purchased, and so on. Kato Hui put his backpack on his shoulder and said, Duanmu Jun, please lead the way. Well, I may often disturb your home in the future, please take good care of me. Xiazhiqiu Shiyu bowed slightly, feeling a sense of respect in her subconscious for Duanmu Xia, who could say such a wonderful script. Promise in advance, I don't know how to cook. Of course, if you like instant noodles, that's a plus. I still have more confidence in instant noodles. Ingli Li began to be arrogant again. As for instant noodles, is there anyone who doesn't know how to cook? Oh. Are you going to my house? Alright, let's go. Duanmu Xia's eyes lit up as she brought 3 beautiful women home. No matter what she thought, it was a very prestigious thing. But why do you always feel like something's wrong? What's wrong, exactly? P.S. Everyone is really awesome. The flowers have soared to 16,000 all the way. Guaranteed 3 shifts plus 1 shift, which means today's 4 shifts. If you can get 2003 fresh flowers before 4 o'clock in the afternoon, then add 1 more. There are only over 600 flowers, everyone can easily give them a gift to achieve it. Qingming outing and happy reading. Charge 100 and get 500 VIP coupons. Immediate recharge, activity period. April 4th to April 6th. 0006, the peak duel between Qiong and Xiazhiqiu Shiyu. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Sitting on the bus home, Duanmu Xia finally thought of something wrong. Are the 3 of Xiazhiqiu going to his house? And will you continue to harass me for a long time in the future? You should know that there is a brother in the house who controls his sister, Chunri Yeqiong. In the plot of Xiazhiqiu, Qiong was furious because you had a relationship with another woman, and almost evolved into the ending of a blackened firewood knife. Is the current situation too similar? Just. Duanmu Xia hasn't had excessive contact with other women yet. Well, maybe Qiong will be better to me because of this. With such thoughts in mind, Duanmu Xia luckily hoped that Qiong would treat him differently, but the fact proved that girls have the same attitude towards love enemies. So, what's going on with these 3 women? At the entrance, Qiong was blocking the door, with a small body that looked like a "one man can handle the situation and 10,000 men cannot escape" posture. Didn't brother go looking for a job? Why did he bring back 3 women when he came back? And Qiong's gaze met Duanmu Xia and looked at the 3 of Shiyu from Xiazhiqiu. I stayed for half a day at the black silk pantyhose of Shiyu in Xiazhiqiu, the golden hair and double ponytails of Inglili, and the O-Pai of Saint Hui. Tisk. The tongue-smacking sound fell unabashedly in everyone's ears. This black, straight woman has a domineering figure and is wearing extremely seductive black pantyhose. My brother has no resistance to this kind of woman. A woman with blonde hair and double ponytails, at first glance, is a proud and petite woman with an average figure, at the airport, but perhaps her brother will be attracted by her proud and petite personality. I heard that this kind of attribute can make people have a desire to conquer. And the woman at the back, with a good figure and appearance, can only be good overall, but why do I think she is the truly terrifying opponent? If Tuan Muxia knew what Qiong was thinking, she would definitely sigh. This is a woman's intuition. What is the intuition that even a big boss hidden so deeply by Sage Hui can be detected by Qiong to be wrong? Brother, please explain it carefully. This is our home and we don't welcome anyone else to enter, especially women. Qiong leaned against the door frame, holding a rabbit doll in her arms, her gaze somewhat cold. Ah haha, well, as you can see, they are my employers. Well, now I'm actually working for them. Duanmu Shigan smiled twice and scratched his head. Working. Qiong's voice slightly increased. She knows that the money at home won't last long. If this is the job that her brother is looking for, then there's nothing she can do, right? TSK. Why is the employer just a woman? 3 more. Hello, are you Duanmu Jun's sister? My name is Xiazhiqiu Shiyu, and I am Duanmu Jun's employer. Xiazhiqiu Shiyu had a smile on her face, but for some reason it looked a bit chilly. We paid 1,000 yuan in advance, that's not a small amount. She spoke as if intentionally or unintentionally, as she had expected, the light in Qiong's eyes flashed by. 1,000. This is really not a small amount. Even frugality can support a month. Money is difficult to earn in this world, and the vast majority of people only work a little over 1,000 points a month. And during this period of work, all your and Duanmu Jun's food, drink, and expenses have been reimbursed and recorded on us. Xiazhiqiu Shiyu's smile became increasingly apparent. More importantly, once the work goes smoothly, Duanmu Jun is likely to receive a bonus of over 2,000. 2,000. Above. Qiong's face became increasingly gloomy. So, little sister, should you give way? After all, we can't work like this. Not only will you be hungry, but your brother will also be hungry to find another job because of your reasons. Finally, the fangs of Xiazhiqiu Shiyu were exposed, and Qiong's gaze dodged, afraid to meet her. Damn it. This woman. Damn it. Forget it. Everything is for my brother, the job I finally found. If I lose it due to my own reasons, although my brother won't blame me, he will definitely feel sad in his heart thinking of this. Qiongling snorted and turned aside to make way. So, excuse me. Xiazhiqiu Shiyu walked into the room with a victorious smile, and Duanmu Xia awkwardly walked to Qiong's side. Angry? No. Qiong wouldn't be angry about these small things. Qiong didn't turn his face, no matter how he looked, he was still angry. The typical haughty way of this textbook. Duanmu Xia chuckled and shook her head, reaching out to gently pinch Qiong's small nose. Don't worry blindly, my favorite is still my own sister. You know, the reason why I work is to support you. Upon hearing his words, Qiong's face softened slightly and he let out a deep sigh. Brother, how long will this job last? Well, it should be maintained until the next anime exhibition. What? Next anime exhibition? Qiong widened his eyes and looked at Duanmu Xia incredulously. This is a month. That means. During this month, they all have to be with their brothers. And then they do some unspeakable things under the guise of work. Hey. What's the unspeakable thing? It would be misleading if you say that. Duanmu Xia covered her face in silence, really wondering where Qiong learned this knowledge from. Perhaps is it talent? Humph. Whether pure or not, if a man and a woman are together for a long time, nothing good will happen. Qiong's voice suddenly lowered. Brother, during this period, I will keep monitoring you, always. It seems that are you being targeted by something extraordinary? Duanmu Xia shuddered, and a cold sweat broke out on his forehead. The small figure of Qiong suddenly enlarged in his eyes, eventually forming a terrifying demon. Not good. Very bad. There must be nothing out of line. Even if there is, you can't be seen by Qiong either, otherwise I will definitely be blackened out by the firewood knife. Qingming outing and happy reading. Charge 100 and get 500 VIP coupons. Immediate recharge, activity period. April 4th to April 6th. 0007, where can the return come from not investing? 3/3 seeks. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Next, let's discuss the specific time arrangement for manga and game production. In the living room, Xiazhiqiu Shiyu was sitting at the table, casually glancing at Duanmu Xia sitting cross-legged next to her. Here, let's talk about the room where Duanmu Xia is located, which is no different from the one shown in the anime. The table placed in the living room for eating is only 30.40 centimeters high. Xiazhiqiu, Shiyu, and even Qiong all knelt solemnly at the table, with only Duanmu Xia sitting cross-legged, which often represents disrespect. As the saying goes, when your academic performance is not good, don't worry, just make the people who have studied well in the past worse than you in various ways. With such thoughts in mind, Duanmu Xia noticed the gaze of Xiazhiqiu Shiyu and spoke directly, well, I don't disrespect you all. In fact, I have always felt tired from kneeling down. If you don't mind, just treat it as your own home here and relax a bit. As soon as he finished speaking, a gloomy gaze fell on him. It was Qiong's gaze. As if it were his own home. Qiong repeated Duanmu Xia's words softly, only to realize that he seemed to have said something wrong. Ahaha, what do you want to drink? I'll go get it. Duanmu Xia chuckled twice and got up and walked towards the refrigerator. I want coffee. Add more cows, milk, and sugar. Yingli Li raised her hand to express her opinion. Sorry, I only have juice at home. Then why do you ask us what we drink? Well, just to be polite, you're actually. Taking advantage of Duanmu Xia's departure to the kitchen, Qiong's sharp gaze swept over the three women and he first challenged them. Since you are my brother's employer, please tell me, what kind of work is my brother going to do? It seems like it's related to comics. Saint Hui silently took out the unfinished book from his backpack and read it quietly, without any intention of answering any questions. But in fact, at this moment, Qiong had subconsciously ignored her existence. We are a Galgame production club, and the commission we are releasing this time is to recruit screenwriters or supervisors. However, based on Duanmu Jun's request, it seems that he needs to do a lot of work. Xiazhiqiu Shiyu looked at Yingli Li, who pondered for a moment and nodded, borrowing her words to say. Yes, he seems to want to take on all the work, whether it's painting, script, music, or even post-game production, and he says he wants to get involved. It is precisely because he can provide assistance in all aspects that we envision completing the game. Otherwise, it would be impossible for the three of us to catch up with this comic exhibition. Impossible. Qiong shook his head decisively, and even the ears of the rabbit doll in his arms began to shake. What you're saying, brother, he doesn't know at all. As far as I know, my brother's only skill is cooking, but his level is only among the general public. Xiazhiqiu Shiyu and Yingli Li looked at each other. Qiong was unlikely to lie, after all, Duanmu Xia was in the kitchen not far away. If this were a lie, it would be too easy to prick it. Isn't it enough to directly ask Duanmu Jun about this kind of question? Saint Hui's gaze still fell on the book. After flipping through the last page, she blinked contentedly. Yes, all the doubts can only be clarified by asking Duanmu Xia herself. Oh, are you worried about my ability? Duanmu Xia placed 5 drinks on the table and nodded to look at Li Li. Have you brought the 1,000 you promised me? Well, let me transfer the money to you. Li Li called out her personal terminal and transferred 1,000 yuan to Duanmuxia. After deducting the amount, everyone clearly saw that her savings were only a pitiful little over 200 left. I can only hope that this anime exhibition will sell well, otherwise I will also eat dirt. Li Li shrugged. Her Japanese-English mixed-race family is good, but she doesn't want to use her family's money. Watching the savings suddenly turn into over 1,300, Duanmu Xia happily called out to the system in her mind. Did the system see it? Well, I saw that in just a short period of time, Xiazhiqiu Shiyu and the others were deceived into entering the house, and they wanted to develop the 3 into their own sisters. What are you observing, your unscrupulous system? What I mean is, I'm also a wealthy person now. Rich. Are you just inflating yourself for just over 1,000 yuan? Let me settle your account. First of all, I ask you, do you want to launch the Your Name comic and Galgame at the upcoming anime exhibition? That's the right plan. So you know that with the abilities of the 3 of Shiyu from Xiazhiqiu, it's impossible to accomplish these 2 things at the same time, right? That's why I contacted you, otherwise who would want to talk to your system? TSK. Being arrogant is not something that boys should do. Proud and delicate, your sister. Cough cough. So I'll give you the best choice. You need to exchange all of them for mastery in painting, mastery in screenwriting, mastery in music, and mastery in programming, which costs a total of 400 yuan. For gameplay, CG and storyline are of paramount importance. Whether a gameplay is good or bad depends entirely on these 2 factors. Why do I have a bad feeling? So, mastery in painting, mastery in screenwriting, and mastery in programming need to be upgraded to mastery in painting, mastery in screenwriting, and mastery in programming. The cost will increase by an additional 600. As for Your Name music, you have also heard of Previous Lives and No Big Deal, so there is no need to upgrade. Isn't it? Did I spend 1,000 directly? Do you want to be so aggressive? Or are you indirectly asking me to spend money in the system? If you want Your Name to become synonymous with garbage in your hands, you can ignore the above suggestions. You won, exchange it. Where will the return be if you don't invest? Oh, by the way, I forgot to tell you, because the deadline for the anime exhibition is too tight. In my estimation, if you want to complete it, you still need to exchange it for double energy, otherwise you may have a chance of sudden death. So, thank you for your patronage, a total of 11,000. Qingming outing and happy reading. Charge 100 and get 500 VIP coupons. Immediate recharge, activity period. April 4th to April 6th. 0008, Your Name, Galgame Production Open. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Duanmu Xia's conversation with the system was only a fleeting moment, and it was also a fleeting moment when her face turned extremely pale. In the eyes of those around him, although he was surprised by the speed of his facial transformation, more of a concern arose, such as, is there something wrong? Hey, you're not lying to us, are you? Li Li spoke without any hesitation. Duanmu Xia didn't refute her, just let out a heavy sigh. Brother. There's no need to sigh, has this job made you difficult? Then we won't do it well. Qiong showed his concern at the time, but his true thought was that he could finally make these 3 despicable women leave. I don't think Duanmu Jun will deceive us, after all, we have already reached this point. Kato Hui spoke out to dissuade Li Li, who was crowned as a saint by the world. She clearly realized that Duanmu Xia's change in face was not the so-called being caught, but the feeling of disappointment caused by clearly getting something and then losing it. What have you gained and what have you lost? How could it be so simple? What's even more serious is that he not only spent all the salary given by Li, but even poured in 100 yuan. This damn system, I won't give him even $100. He's still the owner of the system, can't even offer a discount. There was a strong sense of loss in her heart, representing the accumulation of a depressed atmosphere in her mouth. Without hesitation, Duan Wuxia's eyes turned cold and she took a piece of paper and pen from beside her. In just 1 minute, she drew a cute little loli on the paper. Although painting is sloppy, without light and shadow or embellishment, it can be seen from this hand alone that he has an extremely strong foundation in painting. Just kidding, this is a painting specialization that was exchanged for 300 yuan. Can it not be strong? The system is stingy on one hand, but the products must be high quality on the other hand. This. So strong. Li's mouth let out an unbelievable sigh. Among the people present, only she truly saw the abnormality of Duan Wuxia. The painting speed is very fast, and every line is very stable without any further modification. The characters created have prominent personalities, and their movements and expressions are as if they have truly come to life. Even if it's just a simple drawing on paper, it gives Li a powerful impact on her animation. You, how amazing are you? Why didn't you become an artist? With your strength, the artists in those large fan clubs are not as strong as you. Li possesses outstanding painting talent, which is why she became a well-known Kashuagi teacher in the circle at such a young age through self-study. However, just after watching Duan Wuxia's paintings, she felt a strong sense of defeat. It's not that her strength is not as good as Duan Wuxia, on the contrary, if given time, she can even draw better than Duan Wuxia, but the premise is that it takes time, a lot of time. Becoming an artist in a fan club. No interest. Duan Wuxia put down her pen and took a sip of her juice. Only his heart knows his pain. Do you think I don't want to go? The only recognized jobs by the system are those tasks on the commission form. Even if I earn money as an artist, I still can't exchange skills. Upon hearing his words, Li's breath was suffocated. If it had been before, she would have thought Duan Wuxia was bragging, but now she doesn't. Oh, can I have this painting? No, lend it to me. Li's cheeks blushed slightly. Do you want it? Then let me improve and perfect it, so. No need, that's good, thank you. Li carefully brought the paper, and as it was a pencil drawing, she didn't even dare to fold it in half. Clap. A crisp round of applause rang out, and Xiazhiqiu Shiyu changed her way of sitting, revealing her slender legs wrapped in black pantyhose to her heart's content, and sighed comfortably. I have come to understand the general situation. Duan Mujun has a strong ability to paint, and he should not be inferior in other aspects. So, as the time for the anime exhibition approaches, I think it would be better to start planning game production as soon as possible. First, let's confirm the name of the game. Your name. This has no objections and is approved by all members. The next step is about the character design and script, which need to be started from 2 aspects. The character design will be handed over to Li and Duan Mujun, while the script will be handled by Duan Mujun and me. Kato, I'll leave the post-game production and testing to you. Of course, I won't need it yet, but lunchtime is coming soon. Can you please make some food? Leave it to me, I just saw that there is still something in the refrigerator. Kato thought for a moment and nodded. When did you check my refrigerator, Saint Hui? My sense of self-existence is too low, right? Duan Wuxia complains in her heart. Don't delay, let's start. Has that black silk pantyhose always been so strong? In the kitchen, Kato K, dressed in an apron, is cooking miso soup. In order to prevent lunch from being too meager, she just bought some ingredients from the supermarket outside. So, Qiong hugged the doll and found her, who looked relatively idle, and asked the above words. In fact, Qiong had been sitting on the sofa in the living room, vigilantly observing Xiazhiqiu Shiyu and Li, afraid that the two women had any unspoken thoughts about their brother. But after half an hour of observation, she found these three people are too serious, so serious that there are only three of them left in the whole world. Whether it's the brother discussing the plot and writing the script with Xiazhiqiu Shiyu, or the brother and Lily drawing character designs, their expressions are incredibly focused, and even the nearby sky is unconsciously ignored. Qiong wanted to stop Duan Muxia several times, but when her words reached her mouth, she forcefully swallowed them down. She saw a focused light shining in her brother's eyes, and her little face blushed uncontrollably. Brother, he looks serious and really handsome. It is true that men who are serious are the most handsome. In the midst of boredom, Qiong gradually couldn't bear the oppressive atmosphere in the living room and had no choice but to find Kato Hui, who was busy in the kitchen. Has that black silk pantyhose always been so strong? She asked without hesitation. P.S. Although I didn't meet the requirements for upgrading as mentioned earlier, I also saw the support from everyone. First of all, thank you all, and then let me say that we will continue to add updates for everyone tomorrow. 4 shifts. If the flowers can reach over 29,000 before 12 o'clock, then tomorrow there will be one more shift, which is 5 shifts. So when you see this, please feel free to throw flowers and contribute to more chapters. Thank you all for your support. Thank you. Qingming outing and happy reading. Charge 100 and get 500 VIP coupons. Immediate recharge, activity period. April 4th to April 6th. 0009, Chunri Yeqiong vs Kato Hui. 1/3 Seek. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Black silk pantyhose. Oh, do you mean Xiazhiqiu? She can be very dominant at times, but most of the time she can be considered peaceful, right? Kato Hui pondered and answered. Also, calling others black silk pantyhose is very impolite behavior. If possible, please don't say that in the future. Kato K spoke in a plain tone, with a sharp contrast between the blame in her words and her tone. Qiong, let's taste it. I don't know if it suits your taste, she said as Kato K served a bowl of miso soup and blew it carefully before placing the bowl next to Qiong. However, Qiong has no intention of lifting it up. Qiong. Our relationship shouldn't be good enough to be called that, right? Qiong tightly hugged the doll, using so much force that he even made obvious marks on the doll. That. Kato K tilted her head and thought for a moment. Just as I passed by the bedroom, I accidentally saw the name of Hiroi no Kuni written on my notebook. Is it a bit awkward to address you by your full name, or do you prefer me to directly address you as Qiong? This woman. Why can you say such a female protagonist's attitude without expression? Does she think it's just right? And when did you pass by the bedroom and accidentally see it? Why didn't I notice it at all? Qiong's gaze was slightly cold, and his heart strengthened his initial intuition. Sure enough, this woman is not simple, very not simple. Are you sure you don't want to try it? Actually, I am quite confident in my cooking skills, Kato Hui said as she began to tidy up the kitchen. Her skillful movements made Qiong feel extremely vigilant. It looks like just like organizing your own kitchen. Qiong frowned uncontrollably, but couldn't express his own speculation. After all, the woman in front of him was one of his brother's employers. Humph. This is my kitchen. Finally, Qiong could only hold back a meaningless sentence and angrily turned around and left. Aha. It seems like she's being disliked by Qiong. Kato Hui stared at Qiong's back inexplicably and shook her head. It's really hard to guess a child's psychology. I'm clearly trying to show goodwill. After all, we'll be living together for almost a month in the future. For Qiong, today's lunch can be said to be the worst one he ever had. There are only her and Kato on the entire dining table. Duanmu Xia and his companions were completely immersed in the world of creation, and even the physiological phenomenon of being hungry was ignored. What makes her even more angry is that whenever she wants to remind her brother, it's time to eat, Kato always uses the excuse of, don't disturb them, right? I will heat up after the meal, to very subtly stop her. That tone was like treating an immature child. It can be said that the first round of simple confrontation, Chunri Yeqiong vs Kato Hui, ended with the crushing of Sage Hui. Finally, we have roughly established the framework of the story, and now it seems that, Your Name, is indeed a good work, at least, much deeper than those Galgames on the market. Shiyu Kashiwagi sighed and stretched lazily. Unfortunately, such a story can only be expressed through comics and games. I really want to see the effects of animated movies. After an afternoon, she and Duanmu Xia finally sorted out a rough idea of the story plot, and the rest was to fill the story skeleton to make it more rich and full. Duanmu Xia also felt an unprecedented fatigue. With the memories of his previous life, he worked hard to recall the plot of Your Name, and explain the hidden groundwork clearly. This alone consumed a lot of his energy, and even with the system's exchange of double energy, he couldn't bear it. Don't worry, one day it will be made into an animated movie. After all, it is a work that can move people's hearts. With a slight smile, Duanmu Xia turned her gaze to Ingli Li and said, Ingli Li, what's wrong? Do you have any dissatisfaction with the character design? No, it's great, this kind of persona. Ingli shook her head with complicated eyes. She was holding sketches of personas in her hand, each with a stable and delicate style, and also very realistic, without any exaggeration. This situation is very rare in fan clubs. After all, the character design has no characteristics, so it will not make people feel like they have a bright eye. It is precisely because of this common problem that the development direction of manga, animation, and even gameplay is mostly moving towards high-gloss black silk, huge pie, and so on. But Duanmu Xia's paintings were not influenced by any hidden rules in the industry. The female lead was not a big Qiong girl, nor did she wear any eye-catching black silk. She was just an ordinary, and even a rural high school student who had been turned upside down. But this kind of art style, this kind of character design, deeply attracted Ingli Li's gaze, and along with her gaze at Duanmu Xia, it unconsciously changed. Next, Xiazhiqiu and I will complete the script for the first act as soon as possible, and then work together with Ingli Li to create the original painting. At the same time, the production of the game also needs to be put on the agenda. Duanmu Xia pondered and made a decision. Duanmu Jun, even if it's like this, it may not meet the deadline for the comic exhibition. Xiazhiqiu Shiyu hesitated for a long time before choosing to tell the truth. It's better to tell the truth in advance than to see Duanmu Xia's last disappointed expression. I know. Duanmu Xia grinned and gave a thumbs up. So, I will try my best to set aside some time to complete it. You just need to do your job well, and the rest. I'll take care of it. Should we have lunch now? No, according to the current time, maybe it's more appropriate to call it dinner, right? Kato Hui's voice came from beside him. I've heated the food several times already. If possible, please eat it as soon as possible. It's rare that Kato's tone was slightly accentuated. It can be seen from this that she really feels quite helpless. Goo goo *33 protests rang out, and Duanmu Xia only realized that it was already late outside, with only the last ray of sunset remaining on the horizon. Is it already so late? Duanmu Xia stood up to herself. Just then, Xiazhiqiu Shiyu beside him unexpectedly made a new move. P.S. Everyone is very awesome. Today is the 5th shift, this is the first shift. Qingming outing and happy reading. Charge 100 and get 500 VIP coupons. Immediate recharge, activity period. April 4th to April 6th. 0010, The Routine of Xiazhiqiu Shiyu. 2/3 of You are listening at novelfull.audio. There was a faint sound in Qiong's nose, which contained a lingering and imaginative flavor, as if conveying some kind of message. Xiazhiqiu Shiyu trembled all over and tilted towards Duanmuxia. Duanmuxia quickly hugged her, avoiding the tragedy of falling to the ground. Senior sister. What's wrong with you? Duanmuxia panicked for a moment. Is it because she didn't have lunch and fainted from hunger? Can't it be that Xiazhiqiu Shiyu's body is so fragile? At the same time as he felt puzzled, he saw the expression on the face of Xiazhiqiu Shiyu in his arms and instantly understood something. He has been tricked. On Xiazhiqiu's face, there was a faint blush, with a hint of anticipation and anxiety in her eyes, as if she was longing and afraid of something. Duanmuxia's movements seemed to satisfy some of her needs, to the point where the corners of her mouth were slightly raised, making it impossible to conceal them. Xiazhiqiu Shiyu. What are you doing? Ingli Li was the first person to discover it. Her pupils suddenly contracted and her fingers trembled as she pointed at Xiazhiqiu, incredulously saying, You. I'm really sorry. I was a bit dizzy just now. If it weren't for Duanmu Jun holding me in time, I might have fallen to the ground. I really want to thank Duanmu Jun. Xiazhiqiu Shiyu replied seriously, but there was no intention of leaving Duanmuxia's embrace. How could it be? I clearly saw that you did it on purpose. You definitely did it on purpose. Xiazhiqiu Shiyu. Ingli Li slammed her hands onto the table, stood up and glared angrily. No, you're mistaken. I'm really dizzy, Xiazhiqiu Shiyu said as his head rubbed against Duanmuxia's embrace. He moved to a more comfortable position and stopped like this. Duanmu Jun, please hold on to this action for a while longer. Just conceptualizing the plot made me overthink it, and now it's still blank. Hello. There must be a limit to serious nonsense, right? How could it be a called blank space when speaking in an orderly manner? Ingli Li exuded a dangerous aura from her body. She first glanced at Duanmuxia, then pretended to hold her forehead with her right hand, frowning tightly. My head hurts so much. I must have been using my brain too much just now. It's not working anymore, I'm going to faint, I'm about to faint. As she spoke, she secretly opened one eye to observe Duanmuxia's movements. If Duanmuxia didn't catch her when she fainted, wouldn't it be embarrassing? Zetsuan, don't you think it's shameless to plagiarize others' ideas like this? Hello, Xiazhiqiu Shiyu. Finally admit your original idea, right? Tisk, golden-haired dogs, don't come and cause trouble, okay? You are the one. Ahem. Just as the battle between Xiazhiqiu Shiyu and Ingli Li was about to break out, Duanmuxia coughed heavily twice and lifted Xiazhiqiu Shiyu with an extremely serious expression, allowing her to leave her embrace. Xiazhiqiu, it doesn't matter what you look like. Since that's the case, let's go eat something. After all, we haven't eaten for most of the day, and I think you're also hungry. Duanmuxia's tone contained an unprecedented seriousness, and his appearance could be said to be the reincarnation of Lu Xiaohui, sitting still. But the real reason is only clear to himself. To be honest, my senior sister has a really good figure. The unique female fragrance emanating from his body made him feel relaxed and happy, and the black silk legs that kept changing positions attracted his attention. However, enjoyment carries risks, ambiguity requires caution. Just as his thoughts were stirring, he suddenly felt two murderous auras rising from behind, and 4 gazes fell on his back, making his hair stand on end. Not far behind, Qiong stood with a gloomy expression on her face. The black rabbit doll in her hand was almost pulled out of cotton, and what was even more terrifying was Kato Hui beside her. At this moment, the sage Hui changed his usual expressionless face and showed an extremely bright and kind smile. If this continues, I will definitely die a miserable death. With this realization in mind, Duanmuxia choked off the impulse in his heart, quickly distanced himself from Xiazhiqiu Shiyu and said the above words. It wasn't until then that he felt the killing energy behind him slightly weaken. It seems did you save a little life? So, is that so? Duanmu Xia's reaction left Xiazhiqiu Shiyu momentarily stunned, his gaze fixed on the former with a strange expression. She is very confident in her own capital, and although her figure cannot be said to be domineering, she still has everything she wants. Her height is not low, her appearance is not bad, and the most crucial thing is her profession. Online writer, which is an extremely dangerous term. It can not only convey emotions through words, but also know how to arouse a person's true desire through words. When will he faint? Where will he land? What posture can he use to touch more places? How can he convey his body temperature through his clothes? This kind of question appeared in her mind in the form of text at the moment she fell. It can be said to be extremely terrifying. Even so, Duanmu Xia still pushed her away. Xiazhiqiu Shiyu's gaze swept over Qiong and Kato Hui not far away, and she nodded clearly. Duanmu Jun is really gentle, said the words with unclear meaning. Xiazhiqiu Shiyu walked to the dining table, ignoring the aura of devouring qi emanating from beside him, and calmly tasted it. Half an hour later. So Duanmu Jun, that's all for today. I will supplement the script carefully when I go back, and I will contact you anytime if there are any questions. Xiazhiqiu Shiyu bowed slightly. Please take good care of me too. I will strive to make the original painting perfect, this. Anyway, please take good care of it. Ingli Li's cheeks turned red, her eyes flickering left and right, afraid to meet Duanmu Xia. Duanmu Jun, I will come over early tomorrow morning to make breakfast for you. Kato Hui shook the spare key in her hand and turned her gaze to Qiong. What would Qiong sauce like to eat? Qiong shrank behind Duanmu Xia and said, I don't want to eat anything. Don't come. Never come. Duanmu Xia smiled slightly and touched Qiong's head, saying, the hospitality is not good, be careful on the way. See you later. P.S. Can we get 6,500 fresh flowers tonight at midnight? If it can arrive, we will continue with 5 shifts tomorrow. Everyone throws casually, just to see more of themselves. Thank you. Qingming outing and happy reading. Charge 100 and get 500 VIP coupons. Immediate recharge, activity period. April 4th to April 6th.